Former South African President Jacob Zuma faces corruption charges in court. The chocolate industry fights deforestation caused by growing cocoa. And an iconic film festival is banning what on the red carpet? Africa 54 starts right now.
Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Just weeks after his fall from power, former South African President Jacob Zuma appeared in court Friday to face corruption charges. The brief court hearing in Durban was part of a long-running case that fueled the public anger that finally forced him from office. Judge Temba Sishi said today Zuma was free on warning and that the case has been adjourned until June the 8th. Zuma faces multiple corruption charges relating to $1 billion government arms deal in the 1990s. He denies the charges, saying they're politically motivated. He emerged from the courthouse to address a large crowd of supporters chanting, "Hands off Zuma." They had gathered to declare that the former president's innocence. New South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is promising to root out corruption. He has also vowed to rebuild the ruling African National Congress, which has been beset by corruption, factionalism, and dwindling support. Now, for more on the Zuma's day in court, journalist Thuso Khumalo joins me live via Skype from Johannesburg. Thuso, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine. Now, first, how was it like in South Africa to see former President Zuma in court?
A lot of people have been expecting this to happen, but when it happened, it seems everybody was surprised, because to have a former president, hardly 2 months leaving office, sitting there in the dock silently and listening to the judges, it was something that surprised a lot of South Africans. His picture sitting there in the court, laughing sometime, circulated quite a lot in the media. People surprised to say, oh, finally it can happen that a president a former president can be brought to court and answer to these charges. So a lot of mixed feelings, with a lot of people very happy about it. But as you stated, supporters also saying, hands off Zuma, he's a clean man. They are just enemies trying to get after him. But it was a sin that South Africans are still marveling about, to say at least justice does not care who somebody is when it comes to somebody who has done a crime like Jacob Zuma is alleged to have done.
Now, for those who seem to be supporting him and saying hands off Zuma, what is their case here? Why do they think he's innocent?
Their argument is that Zuma is being pursued not because he has done anything wrong. They are saying Zuma is calling for radical economic reformation which will benefit the blacks, and in their mind they believe that there is a group of white people and rich people that are pursuing Zuma for exactly pursuing economic policies that will enrich them as black people. They are saying Zuma wants to give them back the land, and there are people who do not want this land to be given to the blacks. Hence, these are people that are pursuing Zuma. So this is their argument. They are saying Zuma is the man. He wants all the blacks to be economically empowered as the white counterparts, but there are people who just don't want that, so they are pursuing Zuma so that they silence him in terms of doing that.
Now, are there some kind of level-headed people who are saying perhaps this is a great demonstration of how independent the court systems are in South Africa when you look at the rest of the continent?
Definitely, that's very true, because you talk of a number of countries in Africa. You cannot dream of a president being dragged to court, a former president with the power that they have, the ministers that they still worked with in government. Somebody would have thought someone would try somewhere to protect Zuma, but because the justice system in South Africa is so strong and so fair, it was possible for Zuma to come in. So those people are very correct, because it is because of the sound justice system that we saw Zuma coming to court, and people believe it is going to be a fair judgment to Zuma himself.
All right, Thuso, thank you very much. That is
Thuso
Khumalo reporting live via Skype from Johannesburg. Now, all the way to West Africa, the losing candidate in Sierra Leone's presidential runoff vote says he will challenge the election result. Samura Kamara of the All People's Congress, or APC, claims the vote was marred by fraud. In his response, the nation's new president, Julius Maada Bio, has called on Kamara to drop a legal challenge against the result. Bio hinted that he might even offer Kamara a role in government. Though he stopped short of saying so, Bio's remarks suggest he might bring Kamara, who is a former foreign affairs minister, into his new government in order to placate him. While Bio won the presidential poll, his Sierra Leone People's Party won only 47 of the 132 seats in a parliamentary election held at the same time. Kamara's APC secured a slim majority of 67 seats. Now, for more perspective on the way forward for Sierra Leone, I'm joined in studio by Matilda Kamara. She's an analyst and chief elections judge, County of Montgomery in the U.S. state of Maryland. She is also a native of Sierra Leone. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, first, what were you surprised by how the results turned out to be?
I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that happened before elections, and so the result for me is, I want to say it is what it is.
Yeah.
The expectations of people were that they needed a change.
Yes. People
need a change after 10 years. Otherwise, they're going to think it's going to be a dictatorship. So even though the APC pulled off a lot of votes, but the majority of Sierra Leoneans were like, you know what, we do need a change.
Yes.
And there are other, like I said, underlying factors like corruption, security issues, because, for instance, the police had become a kind of a political apparatus, and people did not feel secure. Yeah. So again, I want to say I wasn't shocked.
Yeah.
But
I found it very, very interesting that the candidate for the ruling party would cry foul. It is typical across African countries that it's actually the ruling party that manages in some way to manipulate or have some kind of clout over the Electoral Commission, and it will be the one to be accused of kind of messing up. How possible?
I would think so too. I would think so too. And that's where I was surprised, because if a ruling party allows itself, because like you said, in Africa, most times the ruling party manipulates somehow to get an edge over this. But because there were dissensions also in the ruling party, there were a lot of factions already, even among the membership. So, and I think there was a kind of overconfidence in them because of the infrastructural development that they had and all of that. So they did not, I would say, in my own view, that they did not do their homework properly. And so they gave the opposition party every reason to have the results that we have today.
Now, Mr. President Bio is telling Kamara to drop the whole idea of petitioning this and kind of, in a way, suggesting they could work together. What is the best way you think they could work together but still retain some element of opposition to keep the government in check?
I think they should, and that would be very good for Sierra Leone, because one of the challenges that President Bio is going to face is that of harnessing the people together. There's a lot of breakdown, and tribalism and other kinds of things that have happened. So, and people are saying, we are thinking or assuming that Bio is going to be vindictive. So in order for him to redeem that kind of perception, he has to bring Kamara, whoever, on board, so that we all work together for the good
of Sierra Leone. But again, the people who voted for Bio voted for him because they don't want the ruling party in power. Now, do you really want to bring them back into the mainstream? Where is the opposition then? Who holds the government accountable?
Parliament.
Okay.
So we have members of parliament.
Where actually the former ruling party has the majority. The former ruling party
has the majority. But again, maybe it's time for us to put Sierra Leone first and look at it that way, that for the first time, a president an opposition wins elections and then brings the other people on board. Matter of fact, I was saying this morning, I think it would be good for Bio and Ernest Koroma. So Ernest Koroma serves as a kind of a consultant, somebody to Bio. Because Africa needs to come, Sierra Leone in particular, needs to come to that point where we're not chasing the old presidents, the other people away, but we can also use their minds, use their brains and their experiences.
So what is the immediate thing that you think the two sides could do to just make sure that the government, the country, moves forward in a much better way.
How to bring the people together. It's so divided right now on tribal grounds, and it's not good for all of us because, you know, Africa, we are married to one to another. So I think it's how to harness themselves together and to bring the people. That is like that number one. And then also make sure that security is for all and not for some.
Exactly. Good place to begin. And we look forward to hopefully greater things coming out of Sierra Leone. I want to thank you very much, Matilda, for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's Matilda Kamara, who is an analyst and chief elections judge, County of Montgomery in the U.S. state of Maryland. And she is also a native of Sierra Leone. Now, Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo is taking heat for his government's approval of expanded military cooperation with the United States. In his first comments on the deal, heavily criticized by many Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo said on Thursday the pact enhances peace efforts in West Africa. The agreement, which was approved by Parliament last month, allows for the deployment of U.S. troops and their military equipment on Ghanaian soil. Thousands of angry citizens protested last week in Accra against the deal and in strong opposition to a growing foreign military presence in West Africa. But President Akufo-Addo says the deal is in line with previous international pacts and does not constitute an offer to Washington to establish a military base. Opposition lawmakers boycotted the parliament vote after failing to block its approval, leaving only members of the ruling party to ratify it. One minority parliament spokesperson vented his frustration over the pact.
Independence of Ghana is not for any sale. Oh, yeah. I can tell them that the good people of this country, overwhelming majority of people of this country, flatly and totally reject this attempt to send us back into colonialism. We will never be colonized again.
Well, the deal will also allow U.S. troops to use an airport runway that meets U.S. standards and have free access to Ghana's radio spectrum. In return, the United States will invest $20 million in equipment and the training of Ghanaian troops. The foreign ministers of Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt have failed to reach an agreement in the diplomatic spat over Ethiopia's massive dam on the Blue Nile. Sudanese Foreign Minister Ibrahim Khandu told Khartoum's state news agency that the talks were constructive and important, but he says they need more time. Egypt and Ethiopia are at loggerheads over the construction of the Grand Renaissance Dam. Egypt fears the $4 billion hydroelectric project that will reduce waters that run to its fields and reservoirs from Ethiopia's highlands and via Sudan. Ethiopia denies the dam will undermine Egypt's access to water. Ties between Egypt and Sudan became strained when Khartoum backed the dam because of its need for electricity. No date has been set for further discussions, but irrigation ministers are planning to meet in the near future for further talks. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook. So check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now coming up, cutting deforestation out of the cocoa supply chain. Stay with us.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen.
I feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
Well, chocolate eggs and rapids are popular candies in the U.S. and other parts of the world, especially during Easter. The Easter eggs are believed to represent the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, the rabbits are a symbol of new life. But environmental groups are encouraging chocolate lovers to think about the impact of cocoa on deforestation in places like the Ivory Coast and Ghana, the world's top cocoa producers. Viewers Deborah Block has more.
During the Easter season, chocolate eggs and chocolate rabbits are extremely popular. But environmentalists say chocolate lovers should be aware of the environmental damage that occurs when rainforests are cleared for cocoa growing operations, especially those that are illegal.
We can't indulge in a feel-good luxury product at the expense of huge swaths of tropical rainforest.
Ivory Coast, the world's largest cocoa producer, is losing its rainforests at a faster rate than any other African nation. While cocoa growing is legal in national parks here, the government says it wants to stop illegal cocoa farming, which makes up 40% of the harvests. Park rangers at Mont Pico National Park work hard to remove illegally grown cocoa trees, but progress is slow.
Roughly more than 800 hectares of coca has been cut. Compared to the park's total area of 34,000 hectares, that's very little.
Ivory Coast and Ghana, the second largest cocoa producer, are collaborating with the leading chocolate companies and the nonprofit World Cocoa Foundation to end the deforestation.
The cocoa and chocolate industry took a landmark decision back in 2017 to end deforestation in the cocoa supply chain and promote forest restoration, beginning in the two key geographies of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. The World Cocoa Foundation, which is a membership organization of 100 different companies, has been the main convener of this partnership of the companies, working very closely with the two governments of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire.
But while the cocoa industry and governments work to end deforestation, some cocoa traders are still turning a blind eye to illegally harvested beans. The World Cocoa Foundation recommends choosing chocolate brands that adhere to international standards and from groups that support sustainable farming practices.
There are some brands that carry a certification standard like Rainforest Alliance or UTZ or Fair Trade.
The environmental protection group Mighty Earth has expanded its focus to look at deforestation caused by the cocoa industry in other countries, including Indonesia, Cameroon, Peru, and Ecuador. Deborah Block, VOA News.
Well, refugee resettlement centers in the U.S. are laying off staff and shrinking operations at the direction of the U.S. State Department. The Trump administration has accepted only about 10,000 in the first half of fiscal year 2018. That's the lowest rate in the program's 38-year history. The State Department says the agency cuts are needed to improve efficiencies and reduce surplus capacity of resettlement agencies. But refugee advocates warn this policy will permanently hurt them. VOA's Bill Rogers traveled to a resettlement center in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
You can't drive without a license.
Learning the rules of their new country. A lot to absorb for the Abula family, one day after arriving in Lancaster on a flight from Africa via Dubai to New York. Exhausted, the Congolese family listens to these Church World Service staffers, themselves former refugees.
You cannot give money or tips to police officers or government officials or any type, even as a thank you for assistance. No money, no tips.
Intake is just one of many jobs done by the CWS Lancaster Immigration and Refugee Office, but arrivals here are down by more than half this year because of Trump administration cuts. And some staffers have been laid off.
No more calls.
It's damaging, especially if U.S. refugee policy changes someday to admit more people, says CWS Lancaster Office Director Sheila Mastro-Prieto.
As everything goes down, and people are laid off and go into other careers, there's going to be a need to build that all up again, and that's going to come at a cost. U.S. has the money, the government has the money. We need to get back to at least 75,000 refugees in a year.
This way, we're going to head to the bus station.
One cost is having fewer trained people to help refugees begin their new lives. This group of Congolese arrived in Lancaster less than a month ago.
So if you're standing here, Anything to that side on Queen Street is called south of the city.
Today's orientation includes learning the city's bus system so they can get to work or to medical appointments. Everything is unfamiliar. Volunteer Dukes Kalamba knows what it's like, having come to Lancaster 2 years ago.
The people, the language, the culture, everything is different. The way our English here is a little bit different than African English. So to change the culture from one culture to another one, it took time. Yeah, it's a big challenge.
Finding work is one major challenge, but the CWS office in Lancaster is able to place refugees in jobs with local companies. The office has a high placement rate, 80%. Also, CWS says Lancaster generally welcomes and integrates the refugees. At the city's central market, where many shop, including the new arrivals, there are warm words.
We should be an open city. I think we should invite these people here. I think it's wonderful for us as a city. I think it brings many cultures together. If you can't open your arms to people that need it, then what's the point, honestly?
But some are more cautious and favor the Trump administration's more restrictive policy on immigration in general.
Yeah, I'm for, hit the brakes a little bit, pump the brakes. Let's make sure what we're getting here. And I also understand from the business community the part about, let's not just let them in, but maybe merit-based immigration. But when you get that much, that fast, that mass coming in, you got to have a plan.
For the Ebola family, huddled together in their new home, missing Africa's warm weather is just one of many adjustments. After fleeing Congo and living for years in a Tanzanian refugee camp, Mtabi Ebola wants peace.
I come to America, and I hope America welcomes us. This is my new country now, and I hope that I and my family will adapt to this life. I hope no one will arrest us, and no one causes us any problems.
Eating a traditional Congolese meal helps ward off homesickness and takes the mind away momentarily from all that must be done to start a new life in America. But when the meal is over, the dishes cleaned up and put away, the reality of having left Africa forever sinks in once again. Bill Rogers for VOA News, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, an iconic film festival lays down the law on the red carpet. We'll be right back.
Delegations from Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan meet in Khartoum to discuss controversial plans for a dam Ethiopia is trying to build along the Nile. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Electoral Commission President says the election will still take place even after millions of duplicates of registered voters were found. In South Africa, outside a court in Durban, former President Jacob Zuma, who's facing corruption charges, tells supporters that those involved in the case somehow think he doesn't have the same rights. In Libya, a lack of funding and resources in the country has forced dozens of private and state-owned newspapers to shut down. Finally, in Ghana, engineer Nelson Boateng is working to resolve plastic pollution in the country's capital by recycling used plastic goods to make paving blocks.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. What if there was an election app that could turn you into an informed voter? In Lebanon, voters can now get information about the upcoming May 6th votes on their mobile devices. It's an app called Know Your Candidate. It's in Arabic and allows voters get in touch with candidates directly and ask them questions. Lebanon's long-delayed election will be held according to a new electoral law. The mobile app helps explain the new law to voters. It also brings them up-to-date election news. The app garnered 16,000 downloads with around 30 candidates joining in the first 5 days of its launch. In other app news, sufferers of mental health disorders could soon be relying on their mobile phones to help monitor their condition and even trigger calls for carers or relatives. A Danish company, Monsenso, recently completed trials of an app that uses motion and connectivity data to detect when a patient needs care or just a friendly check-in with a health professional. The app creators say it helps prevent relapses and, in the worst cases, forewarns of a patient who may be contemplating suicide. And finally, want to take a selfie on the red carpet during the Cannes Film Festival? Well, you can't. That is the message from top festival official Terry Fremont, who says red carpet selfies will be banned at this year's star-studded event. What's more, violators won't be let in to see films. He says when festival goers take selfies as they climb the carpet stairs to the French Riviera venue, everything becomes disorganized and the program runs late. Fremont says it's not beautiful, it's grotesque, it's ridiculous. We want to restore a bit of decency. And that's what's trending today. Well, we leave you today with a music video by legendary South African musician Johnny Clegg. Here's King of Time. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.
I have a feeling that our little boat is sinking. I don't know anymore what it is she sees in me. Maybe the promise of the man I used to be. Somewhere long ago we lost our way. Stop the clock and start again. If I could freeze the sun in the sky, I could go back in time. If I could only go back to that day, maybe we'll find our way. King of time. Things I said long ago. We're trapped in the past, the future won't flow. If I could travel back in time, my heart would never break. Change the past and fix my mistake. We could wake up to a brand new day, whistling our troubles away. If I could speak to the king of time, he could erase and rewind. If I could only go back to that day, maybe we'll find our way. King of time. Shoni, ole bamba ilanga, hausa shela lentombi. Putting on my thinking cap, dreaming of my victory lap, looking for the mother lode, hoping my head don't explode. My crazy ballerina loves the Zulu concertina, dancing through my map.
Zibricorn is going to be a company that's built in Africa, for Africa, and scaled in Africa.